Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service of Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Hi, I'm Father Jay Friedel. Welcome to Faith in Our Hometown. This morning, our guest is Carolyn Schrage, who's the Executive Director of Life Choices Health Network here in Joplin. I personally am a big fan of Life Choices and all the work that you all do. You actually get to do a lot of the stuff that I wish that if I didn't have all these other jobs to do, that I'd actually be able to get out there and start doing. Then who's going to do my stuff? So I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. We're going to talk a little bit today about what Life Choices does, but one of the other things that we're going to talk about was a situation that exists here in our hometown that many people are going to be shocked to hear about, and that's the issue of human trafficking. Whenever I say that there is more trafficking and more slavery at this point in the history of the world than at any other point in the history of the world, people look at me like I'm crazy. But I read a lot, and it scares me a lot. And what I've read does scare me. So we will be right back after this Mercy Minute to talk about human trafficking and what we might be able to do about it right here in our hometown.
Hi, I'm Angie Saporito with Mercy Hospital. I'm here today with Dr. Stephen Meyer, cardiovascular surgeon with Mercy. Hi, Dr. Meyer. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
So we've talked a little bit about the vein clinic, and what is that exactly?
That is minimally invasive treatment for people with varicose veins.
So, and it's an outpatient procedure, right?
Those are outpatient procedures, and it's all done in the office under local or just no anesthesia at all.
So could varicose veins, could that be something that's hazardous to your health?
Many people worry. They come in and ask about could their varicose veins lead to pulmonary embolism or things like that. Typically they do not, but they can lead to secondary effects such as pain, local irritation, swelling, ulcers, things like that.
So if you have a concern or you'd like to get that taken care of, you can call the number on your screen. It'll be easy to get right in, visit with your physician, and we'll be happy to see you. Thank you.
Welcome back. My guest this morning is Carolyn Schrage, who's the Executive Director of Life Choices. And Carolyn, it's great to have you on. I love the conversations I get to have with you in your office or wherever we run into each other. So it's great having you on the show this morning. So I'm going to let you start just by maybe explaining what Life Choices is and what all the neat work that you guys do, because you do a lot over there. And this may be the first opportunity that some people have gotten to hear about what you do.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show today. I'm a nurse. That's what I do, and motivated by compassion. You know, I love the quote from the book Tattoos of the Heart that just says that justice is not the cause you talk about, but it's the space where you choose to stand. And I think that's at Life Choices, we're just choosing that space where we really can compassionately reach out to those that have any kind of a sexual health concern. So whether it's from the prevention or the intervention or the extension, we want to make sure we try to talk to those before they have an issue, but there to intervene if there is a sexual health crisis, and then extend even deeper. So it's not just a matter of leaving them where they're at, but making sure we're offering those holistic services.
So what, for example, in a typical day, what kind of person walks through your door?
You know, there's not a specific demographic or an age. It's anyone who's out there having sex. So, you know, that's who walks through our door. So it can be any ethnic group, any demographic, any age group. It's anyone. So everyone walks through our doors.
Right. And I'm going to add to that as one who works on the faith quarter. It doesn't matter the person of faith either.
That's
it's
exactly
everybody.
Right.
Everybody
exactly
walks
right.
through your door.
Yeah.
You know, you do a lot of work here in our area, and one of the things I think that I find the blessing there is that you give the people who come to you options. You give them the ability to make choices for themselves, and you empower them to be able to do that in a way that's helpful. You know, I know you do a lot of work also on our schools in terms of education, and you work a lot with our young people in that regard, both on high school campuses, college campuses.
I think definitely it's an issue of making sure that people are empowered, and education can empower people to make healthy choices. And so for us, we want to make sure that there's CDC-based good information, and that it's not what we're against, but it's what we're for. And we really are choosing to make sure that there's a safe place where young men and young women in our community can come and figure out what is a choice that is going to be a lifelong choice that's going to be healthy for them. And then, you know, being able to give them those options and talk them through that. We know that, you know, in a world where birth control is very available and seems to often be touted as the answer, really there may have been a decrease in unplanned pregnancies, but the sexual health crisis has escalated because we have STDs that have now gone rampant. And I think, you know, we also are in an age where people tend to think that maybe digital contraception is the answer. You stay at home, you do sexting, you do pornography, but those things all keep you from an unplanned pregnancy, and they certainly keep you from an STD, so that must be the answer. But all those just tie into a social issue that is really disturbing in a lot of different angles in how the consumerism and the sexual exploitation happens in every community in the entire United States.
Yeah, and I know that, again, you know, my Catholic parents would love to think that, oh, well, my Catholic kids don't have to deal with this because, you know, they're so insulated and, you know, they may be in our Catholic schools, they may do those things. But there's no way to insulate anybody from some of those things. And I hate to tell them that all the time. It's just like, yeah, I like to think our kids are a little more protected here, but there's no protecting them from all those things they're still going to have to contend with and to deal with as people living in the world today.
And I think an awareness is what is so important. You know, you mentioned that really modern slavery, that is the human trafficking of today, and that is such a concern for our young people. And the predatory nature of where that happens is not just in the big cities. It is often being seen as in the Midwest more so than any place else. It is our teenagers, our middle schoolers. It is those that are in the malls, those that are going to watch a movie, those that are sitting at home on Facebook and are being specifically groomed for
targeted
evil. You know, it is the predators that know how to get onto those chat rooms and with online gaming, and just kind of opens the corridor to introduce, entice, and bring our kids from good into evil purposes.
And so this is a perfect segue for us to get now into talking about this issue of human trafficking. Every time I talk about human trafficking from the pulpit, okay, the reaction I get is, that's really bad, that's a shame, but you know, thank God it's not happening here. And I've been trying to raise the alarm a little bit, you know, in my own, you know, areas of influence to say, wait a minute, no, this is not just something that, you know, is happening in a third world country. You know, slavery is not just something that's happening, you know, on a rare occasion, but it's happening way too regularly, and it's happening right here in our backyard. And so one of the reasons I wanted to talk with you today is because you have been discovering that it is here and that it is present because of where you work and the folks that are coming to see you. And what you've discovered has been a little bit alarming, and I can tell it's gotten to you because of our conversations. And I was just so, thank you for being, you know, here to kind of like, you know, help me warn everybody that this is not something that just happens somewhere else. So I know you showed me a couple slides the other day that I'd like to, you know, kind of put up for people to see. The first one we've got is a slide of the United States and the hot spots that exist here in the United States. So when we look at a map like this, we can see that the red spots, of course, are the areas where we've gotten more and more and more reports of human trafficking, where people are actually bought and sold, and where these issues are at place. Now, that circle you see in the middle, let's take the second slide now, because I just want to show you Missouri. And I want you to see this. People in Joplin, look down here in this corner where we're looking at Joplin. And yes, the spots may not be as big as they are in St. Louis or Kansas City or even Springfield. But look at the bright red in the middle of that. And these are reported incidences. These are statistics that are covered by our crime investigators. And because of that, we are not immune from this. We are covered right here. Carolyn, what have you been finding out?
Well, you know, when I first heard the statistic, I'm not a person who's just going to take it at face value. So actually got in the car and drove up to the U.S. Prosecuting Attorney's Office in Kansas City to say, are these really what they say they are? And met with the law enforcement coordinator, who basically validated that in the state of Missouri, 90 more prosecuted cases of human trafficking have been occurred in western Missouri than in the 93 other districts. in the entire United States. And so you stop to say, is there really that much more trafficking happening in the state, in the western state of Missouri, than LA or New York City? And I guess the conclusion is that there is not more, but we have people in our state that care and that are taking a stand. And we have amazing law enforcement in our area that are standing up and are collaborating together to say not in our backyard and are being very proactive. But to think that we have more cases that have been prosecuted in western Missouri than any other place in the whole United States.
It's amazing. It's mind-boggling.
Shocked.
Yeah, and again, kudos to our law enforcement folks and to the people who are caring here in our area. But one of the things that is essential for us to continue to make sure that we keep that press on is education. Exactly. And education of all those moms and dads out there. I mean, when I do safe environment training for our families or things like that, to talk about how do we make our environment safer for our kids, make sure that anybody that might be trying to get through our net of protection can't do so. They're scared to death, and I understand why they're scared to death. And I understand that because half of their kids have the access to them right there in their own pockets in terms of their smartphones. I'm not worried so much about what's going to happen on our property. I'm worried about what's going to happen on that cell phone and where those kids are and in that unsupervised time when we're not with them. And so while I have a lot of sympathy for the parents, I hope they're scared when they leave those sessions. I hope they're scared by what they hear. That's
part of the reason why we have been collaborating with the Cybercrime Task Force that's here to make sure that of our 10-day programming that is in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, that we have one day now that is dedicated to making sure that we are doing information, we are doing prevention education on cybercrime, on human trafficking, on all of those things that are truly targeting our kids, and making sure that when we're sending home that homework, that parents now too are beginning to be aware of, when you wrap up and give that smartphone under the tree at Christmas, what are you handing to your child? And are we making sure that we know what to be alert to? Technology is changing all the time. Parents have got to step up and be parents, and we've also got to realize the age in which we live and how does all of that correlate to make sure that we've got a safe community and a safe place. For us, we're even looking at backing that up to 5th and 6th grade because we're realizing it's starting younger and younger. Oh, yeah. Our kids have to know bad touch, bad picture, good picture.
Yeah, and I mean, it is really, I always laugh because we've got these, filters on our high school computers. Great, no problem. I know that they're not going to access the some of that stuff, or a lot of stuff's not going to make it through our filters. As we got really good ones, we got good computer people working on those filters. Okay, but what they've got in their hands brings that stuff in so much easier and so much faster. And they don't have the same, they're not part, I can protect what's coming into our buildings, but I can't protect what's coming into their phones. And so, again, raising the awareness for parents, and the fact that it changes so much all the time, and the kids are, always about 3 steps ahead of my generation at least, in terms of what's out there. And again, it's not that I don't want them to use all the good things that the benefits are there for, but it's really, really frightening in terms of what also is out there to try to lure them in terms of, as you just very blatantly and very clearly and very correctly put it, that's evil. Because there are things out there, and there are icky people out there, and there are icky situations out there, and icky is the best specific word that I can use for that. Yeah. But that those folks are out there and that they are looking for any opportunity, any moment of laxity where we're going to relax for just a second and let our guard down for just that moment so that they can, just hook right in there, and suddenly our kids are vulnerable. It's a scary, scary thing. We're going to talk more about that in a minute, but this is Faith in Our Hometown, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service of Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
And welcome back to Faith in Our Hometown. Again, my guest today, Carolyn Schrage from Life Choices. We've been talking about the very unpleasant topic of human trafficking. It just, you know, but the point is that it's right here in our backyard, okay? And that people are looking for the opportunity to get at our most vulnerable, so especially our kids and people who are a little on the margins, people who don't have the right support, all those kinds of. So tell me, from your expertise, who are the vulnerable? Who should we be looking after, and who should we be trying to support at this particular point in time?
Well, I think one thing to understand is that everyone's vulnerable, but there probably are some of those that we need to give a second look at. And we know that those that are teens, those that are already sexually active, those that maybe have had a breakdown in the family as far as any kind of low self-esteem or any missing love factor. Homes that have an absent father are very vulnerable, those young women, to any kind of exploitation. Also looking at those that have had a teen pregnancy. In the last week, I've had the opportunity to visit with 4 that have come out of a human trafficking situation, and one had an unplanned pregnancy at 15 and a half, got into a dispute with her mom, was asked to leave the home, was walking along the interstate, and literally was picked up and offered some pretty big bucks to turn a trick. And so, you know, that missing love factor is where I think the most vulnerable. One of the areas that we know is extremely vulnerable is the foster kid system. Right. Those that have experienced any kind of a foster past, 60% of those that are in commercial sex trade have come from a foster home. So I think that's where.
And that's not saying anything bad against the foster homes.
No. That's saying
but we're just saying it's an area, it's a vulnerable area.
Exactly. And we as the church have an opportunity to step in there and to really support when we see someone in our youth groups, when we see someone in our Sunday school classes, you know, that we can reach out and make sure that they hear words of affirmation and words of love. We can be very proactive whenever we see that vulnerable situation to reach out with just a gentle touch, just a word of kindness that often can make all the difference in that child's life. Now, 98% of sex trafficking cases are predominantly female, but there is a vulnerableness, and the young men are not immune to also being trafficked. You know, I think it goes back to Joel 3:3 talks about how they cast lots, and they said that, you know, young men were traded for prostitutes and women were traded for wine. It's not a new
not a new thing at all,
but it is definitely one that is the highest and the fastest growing in the United States.
Well, I mean, my people look at me like I'm crazy when I say that we've got more slavery at this point in time than at any point in the world, because of the numbers, because of the access, because of the delivery system. And I mean, again, this is where a little, you know, reading and, you know, the experts in the field, you know, people just say, oh, I think you're being an alarmist. But when I, again, look at pictures like that, and when I look at and I hear the statistics about these 93 cases, and that we're prosecuting more than anywhere else in the U.S., and I start thinking about all those things, and I realize, you know, I'm not overreacting. I mean, you know, I don't think I am. I just know that we have got to be vigilant. We've got to up our game, because certainly the people who want to do harm to people we love have upped their game.
Well, and I know that for me, I've been healthcare in this area for 13 years now, and to see the statistics that say 88% of those that have come out of a traffic situation have sometime during that slavery reached out for medical care, but we didn't give a second look because we didn't realize. So understanding that those of us that are in the healthcare profession, knowing that repeated sexually transmitted infections, repeated unplanned pregnancies, more than one abortion, all of those are indicators. We know that 67% of those that have been trafficked have had more than one sexually transmitted infection. 71% have stated that they had an unplanned pregnancy, with 55% stating that they had an abortion, and most of those were forced by those that were trafficking them. So I think all of those things together, man, those of us that have those of us that have the privilege to know have the duty to act. And I think that's where we as a community, we want to stand up. We want to support law enforcement. We want to make sure that we are being a voice for those that are vulnerable in our community and making a difference.
And again, Carolyn, one of the things I love about you and about your organization is the fact that you're not trying to pass judgment on the people who are coming to you who wind up in these situations. You're not going to necessarily, hit them over the head with the Bible and, preach at them. What you're going to do first is you're going to love them. You're going to help them. You're going to figure out what it is they need. You're going to figure out how to help them to be whole and healthy and make better choices. And if this is not where they want to be, to empower them to be able to make some of those changes so that they've got choices.
So what do they say? Speak the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words.
Yeah, they want to attribute that to St. Francis, although we really can't find any proof that he actually said it.
I didn't say he said it,
I know.
but it's one of those things where we can proactively just, we can be the church. Monday through Saturday, we can be the ones that are reaching there and bridging that gap so that they are getting into that mature fellowship and doing what they need to do, but it starts with love, and it starts with accepting them.
And why I'm glad you're there and why I'm glad you're in the breach, really, is the fact that a lot of times people aren't going to come to me. I wear this, and so, I'm the religious authority, and it's just like, well, we know what you're going to say anyway. We're going to say shame on you, and, blah, 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 blah. And it really wouldn't be my first reaction. My first reaction would be, how do I help you? But that's the reaction. Sometimes people are just like, oh, I wouldn't want to go there, but they are going to go for somebody for health services, and they are going to go when they're in trouble, and you're one of those open doors where they can go. And so, again, I want to continue to support the work that you're all doing at Life Choices. I will tell you, I want to put up a couple numbers on the screen real quick. First is Life Choices number, okay? If somebody's looking for somebody to talk to, I know they can talk to you. But also, the other one is the National Trafficking Hotline. So if you know of someone who is, in a situation they don't want to be in, and they need help, and they need to figure out where to go, there's another number on the screen. So, I just think, again, we've got to raise our awareness at this particular point in time. We've got to take this out of the darkness and the shadows and bring it more into the light. And if we show a little bit of light upon it, we're going to be able to keep the pressure on those who might seek to take advantage of our kids. And we're also going to be able to help those members of our community who find themselves in vulnerable situations, who may have made some choices for survival, but if they don't want to stay there, then we want to help them to figure out what else they can do.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. I think that we all can be a voice. We can recognize when we see someone that is maybe without any kind of identification or papers or being driven to and from an appointment. I know that there are many red flag indicators that our staff is looking at, being very specifically trained on. And I know that Mercy is doing a whole human trafficking forum to bring awareness to all of their physicians and their healthcare providers, not just in a hospital setting, but in the clinics, because that's where we're going to maybe have that initial contact. And we know that sometimes a victim does not feel that they have any ability to speak out because of revenge porn, because of sexploitation and things that are threats against their family. But anyone who has been in a case where there's fraud, there's force, or there's coercion, those are individuals that we really have to be careful for. We also know that the internet advertising, 120 to 145 individuals are for sale in our communities right now. And so looking at those that are exploited and knowing that 50% of those are probably minors. And that is human trafficking when they're exploited.
I want to follow up on that because we talked about this the other day, and I think that will be shocking for a lot of our folks who watch the show on a Sunday morning. They're sitting there sipping their coffee right now going, oh my gosh. But when we start looking at ads that are up on the internet for people who are putting themselves for sale, okay, so there's like 150, let's just go stick at 150, okay? So we got 150 of those a day. And again, what we know from experience is that probably half of those, 75 of those, are minors. And that is an alarming statistic. An alarming statistic to think that we have 150 people for sale right here in our community every day.
And it's not because we have amazing law enforcement, and just even working with and watching how the law enforcement coordinate with interagency is really remarkable in our community. But there's just so many. And then the numbers are there, and they have to rate what is a crime against humanity. And so just in working at that, you know, and looking at some victims are choosing not to step out of that for whatever reason, partly because of financial, partly because that's all they've known. Many are young moms. This is how they support. So who are we to judge that they're putting food on the table for their children? But I think it's one of those things where if we're going to have a voice about it, we have to speak up, and we have to know how are we truly going to reach out and help those that are in those situations.
Right, and how do we care? How do we care in such a way? You know, I'm always a big one on this, and I've said it in varying ways through the years from the pulpit and from everywhere else, is how do we do this in a way that they're almost going to forgive us for sticking our nose in their business? You know, how do we do this in such a way that's loving enough that we can make the difference and really give them an option, and do it in a way that they'll allow us to help them, you know, that they will allow us to help them to make better choices, you know, and things that are going to really make a difference in the quality of their lives as human beings. This is just one of those tough situations. So I'm here with Carolyn Schrage, who is the Director of Life Choices. We've been talking about trafficking, human trafficking, right here in the Joplin area. It's disturbing, you know, and I hope we've rattled you as you've been sipping your coffee this morning, because it's important. You know, we need to be aware, and awareness is one of the first steps. So I will be right back to wrap up after this Mercy Minute.
Hi, I'm Angie Saporito with Mercy Hospital. I'm here today with Dr. Krishna Kosaru, pediatrician with Mercy. Is that right?
I'm the new pediatrician at Mercy.
And where's your office located?
My office is located in 3126 South Jackson Avenue.
So the Jackson Street Clinic.
Yes.
And I have a question. We're into the new year. Is it too late to get a flu shot for your child if you haven't gotten one?
No, it's not too late. We can still get the flu shot.
Flu's still going to be going around for a while?
Yes, yes.
Okay, very important. And you had mentioned another pediatrician is going to be joining you.
Yeah, it will be Dr. Barbara Chilton, who will be joining us from Carthage 2 times a week. She'll be here on Wednesday and Fridays.
Wednesdays and Fridays,
Yes.
Very good. And you're both accepting new patients?
Yes, we both are accepting new patients.
Okay. So if you'd like to make an appointment and see either Dr. Kosaru or Dr. Chilton, you can call the number on your screen or visit mercy.net for more information.
Hi, and welcome back for our wrap-up for Faith in Our Hometown for another week. You know, sometimes our shows are warm and fuzzy. This morning is anything but, because this morning we're dealing with the issue of human trafficking. The fact that people are bought and sold, and that people are devalued to the point where they're seen as commodities that someone else can purchase. You know, it's a disturbing issue. And many times we want to think that it's going on everywhere else except right here in Joplin. But we know beyond a question of a doubt because of all of our work with law enforcement. So kudos to our law enforcement people. Kudos to all of our medical community here, Carolyn, you and all the others who work in it. Kudos to all of those people who are getting the word out there that the situation exists. But even more so, helping us to intervene with people who might need our assistance in this regard. Again, we just want to raise awareness of what's happening here in our community. Human trafficking is here, and if we are people of faith, we do not have an option but not to care. This is Faith in Our Hometown.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. here on KSN. Brought to you as a community service by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.